Marriage and Netflix make a big hit at the upcoming Oscars. The executive producer of the annual Toronto Film Critic Association Award Gala is Brian Johnson. Brian's with us. He watches over 50 films during awards season, and he's also the film critic for Macleans magazine. So, Brian, let's start with Marriage Story. This has kind of caught everybody by surprise, how much buzz this movie is getting.
Well, it's a rare thing, Marriage Story. You know, when we go to the movies, we're often looking for big, escapist, larger-than-life, expansive cinematic films. Marriage Story is the opposite of that. It's very interior. It really revolves around these two characters played by Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, and it takes us on a granular, intimate level into the heart, not of a marriage so much, but of a divorce. And, I mean, I haven't been through a divorce, but everybody I know who has been through a divorce and who has seen this film relates to it on a very intense level. It seems to really get at the heart of an emotional conflict where the stakes are incredibly high, and just the amount of affection that is being lost or betrayed is extraordinary. The other thing that's amazing about Marriage Story is that it's made by a guy, Noah Baumbach, whose wife happens to be Greta Gerwig, who is the most visibly snubbed director with Little Women that the Academy has to offer. And gender politics are always a big issue around this time of year, not to mention racial politics, and with Oscars so white, and we're very white this year. But this film really does try to achieve some kind of parity between the man and the woman, in the sense that some people argue, well, no, it's too much in favor of the guy, and some people say, no, it's too much in favor of the woman. And, you know, he plays a director, Adam Driver, and Scarlett Johansson plays an actress, so it's a showbiz story as well. The director sort of has a kind of power that she doesn't, yet she seems to have more of an edge in other ways. But actually, people actually argue about it not along gender lines. So it's not as if the women are saying, well, you know, it's too biased in favor of the guy necessarily.
Okay,
so I think
it is like you said, that granular look, though, on a very personal part of so many people's stories. Let's move also to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because you've been writing about, you know, the nostalgia hunt. That's this, like lots of old memories, old white guys. Why is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood filled with such nostalgia, making such a hit?
Well, it's interesting. Like Marriage Story, it's also about people in showbiz, but on a very different level. I think it's Quentin Tarantino's love letter to Hollywood. I think it's the most sentimental, in a good way, film that Tarantino's ever made. There's more affection and love in this film. It's a buddy movie that is virtually plotless, really, except for the simmering Charles Manson and his witchy coven of female acolytes. It's in the background of the story, and that eventually sort of pays off the ending of the story. But in terms of the relationship between the stuntman, played by Brad Pitt, and the actor, played by DiCaprio, it's just an incredibly warm, supportive relationship between these two guys. It's a kind of buddy movie without the usual conflict we would expect between them. And the great reversal, of course, is that Brad Pitt, as the stuntman, as the working Joe, actually comes across as the kind of movie star they don't make anymore. And Leonardo, as sort of the put-upon, insecure, flaming out actor worried about his career, comes across more as a character actor kind of role. So
both these movies, though, actually kind of play off each other on that whole deep dive into relationships, don't they?
Yeah, and I think the acting and script in both cases are superb, and they're nominated in those categories. I think Brad Pitt is a shoo-in to win Best Supporting Actor. I think it's the performance of his career, and it really is kind of like a lead role on a par with Leonardo's.
Okay.
Adam Driver is on such a roll. He's everywhere, and people love him, and I think he's a very strong contender for Best Actor, with, of course, his biggest challenger probably being Joaquin Phoenix in Joker.
Okay. Brian, we got to leave it there. I don't know how you do 50 movies plus in a year, but...
I don't keep track. You're keeping track. I give you a ballpark. I have no idea how many.
Okay. All right. Brian Johnson, Macleans movie critic and the director for the Toronto Film Critics Association, thank you.
Thank you.
Hit subscribe and the notification bell to get our weekly episodes and web exclusives.